February is the shortest month, and yet this month somehow I read some of the longest books I've ever read. Let's see what else I read this month. Welcome back and welcome to my February wrap up. I think that you are getting this in a timely fashion, unlike my January wrap up, which I swear I actually only posted last week. My February reading kind of ended on around the 25th of February, which is when I flew to New York and did basically no reading. I finished listening to Chasing Daisy, which was my page tune read along on the plane, but aside from that, there was no more reading for me. I didn't have any kind of moments to sit down and read. So I just didn't. I was out and about and socializing, not out and about where I'm listening to an audiobook or out and about where I'm reading my Kindle. So yeah, I read some books this month. Let me tell you what I read. Some of what I'm going to talk about is going to be featured in my Contemporary-a-thon wrap up and reading vlog, so I will leave that linked up here in case you have missed it. I talk about a lot of these books in that video, and I am planning a standalone review of one of these books coming your way very soon. So if you're watching this later than when it actually goes up, I might have linked that. Let's start as always with ebooks, and then I'll move on to physical books, any one of those, and then audiobooks, which is always my biggest category. I am such an audiobook advocate. Ebooks, first of all, I have a couple that I have physical copies of. I pre-ordered all of the 2020 Goodreads on my Kindle, and then when I went to New York, I met up with my mum and she brought over the physical books that I ordered for her because they're not available in the US. So I have physical copies of them now, yay! And this is something that I started reading before my flight and then read a couple more stories on my flight. And this is a fresh start, which is one of the 2020 quick reads. These are only £1, or I think they're like 90 something on Kindle. This is actually a collection of short stories within this short story and features authors such as, are you ready for all these amazing authors? Louise Candlish, Keith Stewart, Jojo Moyes, Adele Parks, Fanny Blake, Mike Gale, Sophie Kinsella, Ian Rankin, and these are all edited by Fanny Blake as well, and these were amazing and such a nice mix of genres as well. It's such a great way to discover authors. I did a video talking about, I think, the 2018 I want to say, or 2017 quick reads, but if you would like a whole video talking about all of these, do let me know in the comments, because I now have them all here. You might see some more featured in my March TBR, which will be coming up soon. But yes, I read this one and I read it on my Kindle. Another one that I read on my Kindle but that I have a physical copy of because I won it in a giveaway. I sent my review over to Simon & Schuster, and I was drawn as a winner of this book, so you will see it in my book haul as well. And this is My One True North by Millie Johnson. I don't want to say too much about this book because I really want to make a standalone video talking about it because I loved it that much. It may be my book of the year. I finished it and had those like happy tears that you get at the end of a really fantastic rom-com. Think Sleepless in Seattle, think Four Weddings and a Funeral, ending with the tears, the happy tears. And it's been so long since a book did that to me. I just absolutely loved this. I read it all on my Kindle. I basically read it in one sitting. I finished it about 2:15 in the morning. It was just stunning and I loved it, and I love Millie Johnson, and so I want to make a whole video talking about it. So here it is. I read it on ebook, but I'm going to give you a whole video about it. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. I don't want to put these, don't know where to put these. I've like not made a video in a couple of weeks, so I've lost my mojo. Then I also read New Beginnings at Glendale Hall, which I read on ebook and is available on ebook. I think when I talked about it in a previous video, it was on offer, so it may still be on offer. If it is, I will leave it linked down below. And I do have a video with Victoria where I interview her. This is the sequel to Coming Home to Glendale Hall, which I read just before Christmas. I think it was end of October it was released, and I absolutely loved it. It was such a beautiful story, and if you like Fleabag, aka you like the hot priest character in Fleabag, you will love this one. There may be some baked goods featured in this one, given that the main character is a baker. So hot priests, bit of Scotland, bit of like secrets and intrigue. It's well worth some investment with a cupcake. I really enjoyed this one. I've had a pretty good reading month. I've really enjoyed some of the things that I've read. Then I read Of Curses and Kisses by Sandia Menon, and this is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast set in a posh boarding school up here near Aspen. So obviously Sandia lives in Colorado, and so I like the fact that we do have some of her books set here, so places are recognizable. This was good. I didn't love it, but I did like it, and I've read some retellings that I really kind of didn't get, but I liked how different this retelling was. I think I don't like when a retelling is too close to the original, and this one was far enough removed from the original, and this is going to be the start of a sort of series of different retellings, and I'm really hoping that the sister from this novel is involved in a future retelling. I'm quite excited for that. I'm, ready and waiting. I also read on ebook Johnny's Girl, which is, I didn't read this on yes I did, which is featured in this bind up of page tune novellas, extra chapters, extra scenes, which if you have seen my video talking about the page tune read along that I am doing ready for Paige's new book coming out in May, reading a book of hers a week. Some of them have extra chapters, extra scenes, or even mini novella sequels. So Johnny's Girl was released on ebook and is in this bind up, which is called One Perfect Christmas. So it is in here, but I had it on ebook, and I read that because I also read Johnny Be Good and Baby Be Mine this month, which are links to Johnny's Girl. So that was the other ebook that I read. Then were one physical book that I read. I have a massive stack of books here. Like I say, I don't know what I'm doing with my books in my hands and my iPad list. I only read one physical book this month. I was planning on reading others, but it just didn't happen, and that's okay. I read Renegade Women in Film and TV, and as you know, I read this one in the run-up to and during the watching of the Oscars, because that had Renegade Woman in Film and TV as well, and I really enjoyed this one, and this one was gifted to me by my lovely friend Crystal. Here we have the Catherine Bigelow page, so it's a bit like Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, where you have the illustration and the bit about the person, and then there are a few extra pages in here where people get like a sort of double spread and have a bit of a mini interview as well, which is nice because it breaks it up. One of the other things I really liked about this book is the fact that we have some kind of extras that they included at the back with just mini snippets about them. And you've got the likes of Mindy Kaling in there and Laverne Cox, and you've got like what to watch for those people, and then still more Renegade Women. Just epic. So I like the fact they were like, we didn't have room to include these women, but here's some more information about them, and also if you enjoyed these women, here's where you can watch their best work in film and TV. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one, and I'm glad that I kind of did it as part of my Oscars watching night as well. It felt really buzzy, and I had my glass of champagne, and it was really fun. So moving on to my biggest category, as always, the audiobooks. I do have a lot of these as physical books to show you, so that is good. I will put pictures in of the ones that I do not have. I finally got around to reading the Romance Book Club, which, a little bit like the way I felt about Curses and Kisses, it was good. I wasn't like, oh yes, this is amazing, you have to read it. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad I finally got round to reading it because of all the hype. Anywhere there's talk about romance novels on the internet, this comes up. And yeah, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't kind of feeling the need for all the hype. However, I know we have the second one coming out next month, the month after, and I'm in two minds whether to read it or not, because it picks up on a character I really enjoyed in this book. So I think I probably will be seeking that one out. I got this one on audiobook from my library, so I'm presuming I'll be able to get the second one from my library too. But yeah, it was kind of, okay, I'm glad I read it, and okay, it was good, but I'm not sure why there's all the hype about it. That's my feelings on that. And then another one I don't have to show you is my first page 2 read along book, which is Lucy in the Sky. And this one was a reread for me. However, I didn't remember just how much of a bad person Lucy's boyfriend is in this book. And when I say he's a bad person, he's like a rapey person. He really does a lot of gaslighting, is very verbally abusive, and also does things to her without her consent. And it made me really uncomfortable, and I didn't remember all of this in here when I was reading it the first time. I still really like the premise behind the story, and I really like Lucy as a character, and I really like Nathan as a character, and I like that we get to see these characters in future novels. But James in this one was just, whoa, this is a bit much, and I kind of want to go and kind of counsel Lucy and be like, you know, you need to say something. He's done this to you without your consent. This is not good. So that was an interesting rereading experience, and didn't make me question my kind of previous opinion of the book, because obviously the previous opinion was my first impression, and we have so much more language to talk about this kind of thing now. So it's difficult because I'm coming at it from a completely different point of view. I was single when I read this book. I'm married now. I was much younger when I read this book. I'm older now. It's just that interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed the reread of it, but wow, there was some things that were very problematic in there. Then another reread that I have a physical copy of was P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, which I have a whole book versus movie talking about, because obviously the second movie came out on Netflix, which was my reason for reading this one this month. And this one, I really like what it says about women and consent and slut shaming and bias towards men or women in that kind of situation. And I had forgotten how well it's handled in this book, and then yeah, prepared to watch the movie. So yeah, definitely go and watch that book versus movie, because I have thoughts, very much so. And then we have, is there anything else I do not have to show you? Yes, I listened to Homework by Julie Andrews, which is one of my very long books. This is her second memoir, and deals with when she kind of first makes it big over here. So she is obviously British, and then came over to Broadway and Hollywood to work, and she kind of gives her take on working in various different locations, and that was really interesting. It's really interesting what she has to say about Walt Disney, and what she has to say about her previous boyfriends, husbands, men, and her kind of role as a mother as well. and you've got Julie Andrews reading it to you. So I highly recommend the audiobook, but it is a long one. And then another really long audiobook that was just a big disappointment for me, unfortunately, was Grown Ups by Marian Keyes. This one, I love Marian Keyes. I love everything that she's written. I've been reading her since I was 18, and I was so excited for this one, and the cover gives nothing away. It's literally someone lying on a floor, and that's it. The rest of the cover is all cream, as you'll have seen. But this one was so long. And I read some other people's reviews when I was writing mine, and they were kind of like, this only deals with 3 families. I could not keep track of all the characters. And I think it's partly because it's just a bit on the long side. However, if you like that kind of epic family saga, and if you like when things are slower paced and are drawn out more, you will love this book, because obviously it's got Marian's humour in there, and it's got her ability to write these characters who are flawed and who say and do some shocking things, but are still funny and you're still rooting for them. So even though I was disappointed overall, I could still find the humor, and I could still find the, you know, the beauty of these characters as Marian Keyes characters. So yeah, if you like a big family epic saga, you will like this one. And if you like a much more slow paced, slow burn kind of book, you'll like this one. I did it on audio. I wouldn't recommend doing that, because then it's much harder to keep track of the characters. I think if you did it as a physical book, you'd be able to kind of flick back and forwards to see who you were talking about and how they related to who. However, if you were doing it as a physical book, you'd need a backpack to carry it, because it is a long one. How I ended up reading all these long books in January, I don't know. But yeah, this one just wasn't for me. Like I say, I can see some good points about it that others will enjoy. But if you are a die-hard Marian Keyes fan, and you're not a fan of the longer, drawn-out, slower-paced saga, then you might, like me, be a little disappointed in this one, which was a shame, because I was super psyched for it, and I bought the audiobook. I pre-ordered it, but hey ho, we can't like everything. Then I have some that I actually have to show you. This again will be featured in my book haul, because this is hot off the presses. I went to New York and I sought out a signed copy of The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper. I absolutely loved this one. I loved how a debut author can incorporate so many issues in one book. Issues of sexuality, issues of STEM in society, issues of mental health, issues of what it's like when you're a teenager and you have to move from one city to another, and they're completely different cities in different time zones. Like, how do you manage to cover like all of that and more in a young adult debut novel, when you also have an excellent story about a mission to Mars that features a reality TV show about the families of the people who are going to Mars and working on that mission? How do you do that? I'm just in absolute awe. If you haven't got this one on your radar, I highly recommend it. You know, if I didn't sell it enough by saying all the things it manages to cover and still have a brilliant storyline in not too long a book as well. So yeah, I was really pleased to find a signed edition of this one. I did go out of my way for it, so yay, they had it. I have it now, and I absolutely loved it. And I really recommend the audio, because the reality TV bits of it are actually like live done. Like, there's some music and then there's some people talking, and it's like a full cast thing. It's so cool. Then another reread for me. I've done quite a few rereads this month. I didn't kind of clock that I was doing this many rereads. I reread Can You Keep a Secret by Sophie Kinsella. Ready to do a book versus movie for you, so I'm not going to talk about this. It was delightful to reread. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time, but I'll have a book versus movie coming your way very soon, so make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss that one. And I did do that on audio, even though I have that physical copy there. Then one of my Book of the Month Club picks for February was Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed, which I believe came out on the 4th of February, 3rd of February, 4th of February. It was a leap year, so it must have been the 4th of February. Because obviously when it's not, the dates in March are the same. And today's the 4th and it's Wednesday. So Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed. This one I enjoyed. It wasn't like blow me away, I can remember everything about it, but I did enjoy it. And what I really liked about this one is that it gets a little bit political, and a little bit political in the sense of they are campaigning for people who are running for some sort of office. I can't remember which, but it's really interesting to see how that all works, and also how it works for people from different backgrounds and how people react to people differently. And so I really like the political aspect of that, because it is a brave thing to do. It can really date your book. It can really alienate certain groups of people. And so I like the fact that they went ahead and did this. And it's quite a chunky one too. I did it on audio and it has 2 narrators, and I think that really brought it to life. Like I say, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like the most memorable thing. But I know the things that I liked about it. So that gives you any indication of whether it's for you or not. There we go. Then something kind of similar. I'm glad I didn't read these 2 at the same time, because they've both got blue covers. And they've both got a couple of different people on. But this one is Don't Read the Comments. And this is 2 gamers who play this game online and are epic at it, and are kind of known in their field and develop stuff for other gamers and for people in the industry, which is really cool that one of them is male and one of them is female. And they have obviously a bit of an online friendship, and what happens when that's possibly going to come into real life, and what happens when they get treated very differently because one of them is male and one of them is female within the community, and one of them comes from a more well-off background than the other. And so we've got some difference in kind of class and gender, and how that affects them within the community and also within the real world. And I really liked what this one had to say. I really like the fact that it exposes what it's like to be different in that community, and also it deals with a little bit of convention. And I was like, oh yeah, I can picture the Javits Centre, I've been there. But yeah, I really like this one, and I'm glad that I kind of picked it up on a whim. It was definitely a cover pick for me, and the audio was really good, and also had dual narrators, so we like that. Then I forgot to mention, I mentioned at the very beginning of the video Chasing Daisy, and I've mentioned Lucy in the Sky, but I also read another 2 things by Page Toon this month, because obviously February has 4 weeks, and so I will have read 4 of her books this month. I listened to Johnny Be Good, which is the first in the kind of Johnny Be Good series, the second of which is Baby Be Mine, and I also listened to that, and obviously I listened to them back to back. I kind of let this one stretch out a little bit so I could start Baby Be Mine immediately after having finished this one, and I think that that was a really good way to do it. I really enjoyed these. However, I know that because these are backlist titles, I know that a lot of people in the community, the UK romance readers, absolutely love Johnny, and I'm like, as much as I can see why some people love him, I don't know. I think he's a bit of a dick, and I think that even though he redeems himself slightly across the course of both the novels, I still think that he comes off as a bit of a dick. He is obviously a pop star and living in LA, and Meg starts off as his personal assistant, and she's from the UK, and you can imagine how that goes. I also thought that Meg as a character was very indecisive, and it really annoys me when people are super indecisive in books, and that's just a personal thing of mine, but I think that annoyed me a little bit in her character, and so I found her less easy to like as well, but overall I liked reading their story because he's obviously famous, and so it's a bit gossipy. So if you like the kind of drama of a reality TV show, you know, that Real Housewives of blah blah blah, then this one definitely for you, or Baby Be Mine. I read them both back to back and I enjoyed them. And then finally, besides this one, honestly, I don't know, and it's not that I don't kind of purposely stay away from longer books, but they're just not kind of on my radar really. Just the books I read aren't normally that long. So this one's 450 pages, and like, that's not terribly long, but when it's a really short month, then everything else you read is north of 400 pages as well. It's long. This is The Gifted School by Bruce Holsinger, which was a Book of the Month Club pick July 2019, apparently. Didn't realise it had been on my shelf that long, but I had a hold on the library audiobook for a long time, and when it came in I started listening to it because I didn't want to kind of miss out on it, and this one is actually set in Colorado as well, and I didn't know that. So this new school is going to be opened, and the parents all go mad trying to get their kids in there. It was very Desperate Housewives. It reminded me a lot of the tone of Liane Moriarty's novels. So your Big Little Lies, Hypnotist Love Story, The Husband's Secret. If you like those, you'll definitely like this. A previously happy group of friends and parents is nearly destroyed by their own competitiveness when an exclusive school for gifted children opens in the community. And it really did have that feeling, and I really enjoyed it. And even though it is a long book, the audiobook didn't feel long. I think it had enough going on that I was kind of kept riveted, and the kids kind of have their own storyline as well as the parents, which I really liked. I like when children aren't just kind of swept under the carpet or used as a tool or a plot device. They have their own storylines, and so I enjoyed this more than I thought I was going to, which sounds silly because I obviously bought it, but I thought I was going to like it and it would be something a bit different, but actually it was more like something I've read before, and I really enjoyed it. So there you have it. I want to go and count how many pages I read this month, because I feel like I've read a lot of pages. It doesn't necessarily correlate with having read a lot of books. So I will be right back once I've counted my pages, because I'm interested. Okay, here's the stats for you. I just needed to work this out because I was so intrigued myself. So I read 8 books that were out of the 19 books I read total, which is pretty good for February, especially considering the fact that last February I read 4 books. Don't know what happened last year. 8 of those were 400 plus pages. Of those 8, 2 were 500 plus, and 1 of them was 600 plus. That Marion Keyes is 656 pages, and the Julie Andrews book is 560 pages, and I feel like I was listening to them both at the same time. Why was I doing that to myself? Why? I mean, I really enjoyed spending that time with Julie Andrews, obviously. But yeah, so that's a total of 7,059 pages, all in 29 days. That's not too bad, I don't think. Yeah, it would be interesting to compare that with the 31 things that I read in January. Oh, I cannot get my months and years straight. It really has been a little while since I filmed. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I've done it slightly differently, so let me know in the comments if you have. Let me know what your favourite book of February was. Mine was obviously My One True North by Millie Johnson. I loved it. Second favourite, definitely Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper, obviously. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe so that my next video lands in your subscription feed. I will have my March TBR up for you soon, as well as a book haul and a book review and a book versus movie. So there's lots that you don't want to miss. Thank you again for watching, especially if you've made it this far. I will see you with another video again soon. Bye.